If you look up Mother Teresa, you will find so many websites and stories dedicated to trying to prove that she was
not real
and fake and a hoax, basically. But the next person I want to really speak about is Marie Curie. She was a Polish-born yet French naturalized. She was a French naturalized citizen, and she was a scientist or chemist. And she actually, here's an interesting fact: she was the first woman to win a Nobel Prize. She's the first and only woman to win 2 of them, and she's the only person to win them in different sciences. And so she has a Nobel Prize in chemistry and physics, which is very nice. She has many, many awards, but most notably her Nobel Prizes. And actually, another fun fact, the Curie family has the most Nobel Prize recipients of any family up to date. And they hold this record, even though Marie and her husband Pierre won their awards in the 1800s, and her children, or grandchildren, and son-in-laws all won theirs in the early 1900s. And so basically, no family has more Nobel Prize recipients than the Curie family. But what really made Marie Curie rise to being how famous she is now is the fact that she started research on radioactivity. And radioactivity is actually used in chemotherapy to rid you of cancer. And so basically she is noted and she is praised for being one of the main people to A, start research on radioactivity, and B, suggest that it should be used to cure cancer. And then, you know, radioactivity, and then chemotherapy was made, and it's helped lots of people overcome cancer. And so that's what makes Marie Curie famous, and also her works on different sciences. And she actually died from being around all those gaseous fumes, and back then they didn't know that, you know, that could be harmful, but she refused to use a mask or gloves or whatever, and so she was constantly exposed to radioactivity because she would have it on her hands. So if you ate something with your hands, it's going into your body, and it's not going in the right way, because you might think that since it was used for chemotherapy, that it could just be good, but if you're consuming radioactivity and it's not in the right way, then it can be deadly.
Alana, where did you get your source of information in reference to Ms. Curie?
For instance, I've gone to different websites, and I've gone to Google, Bing, different search engines, and I've gathered together the information that they pulled up on these women, and I've combined them from different websites, and I've made sure that all the facts that I'm giving you now are real facts. And so I've done extensive research on these women for a good period of time now. And so before the second segment ends, I would like to talk about Zora Neale Hurston, which is one of my favorite authors. She has over 50 novels, well, she has over 4 novels, and she has over 50 short stories, poems, plays, and etc. Now, Zora Neale Hurston, you might know her as the woman who wrote Their Eyes Were Watching God, and that's her most notable novel. And she's also known for being a very big part of the Harlem Renaissance. And the Harlem Renaissance was an era where African-American poets and artists all came together, and it was really the boom in African-American literature and culture. Like, you know, it paved the way for people like Toni Morrison and etc. And so Zora Neale Hurston, you may just know her as an author, but she was actually a very interesting woman. For instance, I don't know if they got married or not, but she used to date a man who was 17 years younger than her. And she was actually an atheist, as she put in one of her stories, because she described prayer as a cry of weakness, and she really was out there about her religion and how she was just saying that I'm not dissing religion, but religion's not for me. And she was actually, some people think that she was a liberal, and some people think that she wasn't. And her political views are not even known to this day, because of all her works really showed something different, because she would always get into the mood of the book, so you would never know. And so, but the one thing we do know about her personal life was that she was an atheist, and she discredited prayer and all that, and just showed that she believes in the universe instead of religion.
Okay, Alana, what we're going to do, we're going to take this second commercial break, and then when we come back, we're going to have about 10 minutes, and that'll give you an opportunity to make some more statements in reference to some of the significant women that you'd like to talk about. But I want you to leave at least 3 or 4 minutes before the end of this show so that you can give us some information in reference to how young people ought to receive this information. And we'll be back with our audience following this very, very short commercial break. Last 10 minutes. Okay. Yeah, that's excellent information. You're really doing well. You're better than I thought you were. Huh? Really, you're better.
Did I earn that phone?
Yeah, you did. Really did. You really did. Let's see now. Who's this next guest? Now your father's not going to come until 11. Whatever. And so I want you to take that brown envelope and take care of all that information that has to go in there and sort of go out and wait for these other folks to come in. Okay. Make sure there's a schedule. Take that schedule out there and sort of keep up with that. Yeah, this is excellent. I don't think we're going to get any more articulate statements on the show today in reference to what you're doing. It'll give me a chance to get a word in edgewise, which is good. Yeah.
30 seconds.
Okay. Yeah, I'm going to have you to speak to your colleagues or your class. Thank you and welcome back to the final segment of the show for today. We're talking to Alana McLaughlin, and she's giving us some information concerning significant women during the March month of women's history. And so, Alana, let's pick up where we left off the last time. You've already given us some excellent information in reference to at least 2 women. And we want you to continue not only that information, but other information that you might have to bring in to sort of broaden what we're doing during this last 10 minutes.
All right, so in the second segment, I spoke about Zora Neale Hurston, who is an author and a writer of short stories, plays, and etc. during the Harlem Renaissance. I spoke about Marie Curie, the Polish-born yet French naturalized chemist who is the only person to ever win 2 Nobel Prizes in different sciences. She was the first woman to win a Nobel Prize in general, and she's the first and only woman to win 2 of them. Then I spoke about Mother Teresa, who is the widely famed and widely loved yet widely criticized saint of the Roman Catholic Church, who was recently made a saint by Pope Francis in December of 2015. Now, all these women, they've made tremendous impacts, and they've paved the way for girls like me and younger women, and they've paved the way for people that you're probably more familiar of, such as Taraji P. Henson, Beyonce, and other notable women of today's society. Now, I really want to talk about Taraji P. Henson because she is one of my favorite actresses, and if you're not familiar with her, you actually probably are, you just don't know her name. But if you admire Cookie from Empire, then you know how much Taraji P. Henson can act, because she can act. And I was actually very fortunate to be able to see her speak at Tennessee State University around this time last year. Actually, she came to TSU when it was actually sold out, I think, and she came and spoke, and I got to see her, and I got to ask her questions. She was very nice. It was a really nice event. And so Taraji P. Henson, she is an actress. She's her most famous works are like I Can Do Bad All By Myself, and especially Empire. Now, Empire, if you're not familiar with it, is a show about an African-American recording company, which is a family called, they call themselves Empire. It's just a really nice show, and if you don't watch it, it comes on Fox. It comes back on in March, I think. But anyway, that's Empire. And I Can Do Bad All By Myself was a woman who was a singer at a club, and she has to take in her niece nephews and her niece, and she has to raise them while kind of raising herself. And she's worked in a lot of great things, and I think that wouldn't have been possible without these women, because they showed that you do not have to be a man to do certain things. Like, for instance, there was a time when they thought that women couldn't be actresses, and there was a time where they thought that men couldn't be models. And so there are always those people who break those boundaries and say, hey, if I can do this, then you can do this. Like Marie Curie said, if I can be a scientist, then a man could be a makeup artist. Anything, because since these people defy these odds, it should empower you to say that you can defy your odds. And for instance, like Beyonce is probably one of the most acclaimed artists in the world, really. And she's actually come under a lot of controversy recently for her Super Bowl performance, where she had a Black Panther themed performance at the Super Bowl. I personally enjoyed it because I thought that it had Black power in it, it had spirit, I liked it. But a lot of people are saying, you know, she's like a racist and she's going overboard with it. But it's up to you. And if you want to see the Super Bowl performance, you can probably just look it up on YouTube. And her new song Formation that just came out, the video's under a lot of controversy in the lyrics, and if you want to look that up, you can look that up too. It's quite easy to find. And basically, women like this empower me, but there are always women back at home who should empower you. And I know a lot of people don't have those types of women in their lives, and so that's why I like to be a mentor and etc. And I like to encourage my friends to be mentors to those people who don't have those women figures, like those boys who are growing up without parents and etc., running the streets and etc. But just imagine the difference you could make just by being that woman figure that they've never had in their lives. And so basically, two women who have encouraged me a lot in my life are my grandmother and my mother, basically your wife and your daughter. The reason that my grandmother encourages me is because she showed me and she's told me multiple times that whatever I want to do, that I can do. She's never told me that there was something I couldn't do. Even if I wasn't the best at something, for instance, like running track, I didn't always make first place, or I didn't even always place all the time. Or finish. Don't bring that up. No, but anyway, I didn't always do the best, but she encouraged me after every single game. And she told me, you know what, there's always room for improvement, but just don't ever give up. And I think that's the reason why I'm here today, because when I first started the show, I was, it was about 6 years ago. I was like, I don't even know how old.
8 years old.
8, oh my gosh, that's crazy. And so I wasn't the best at speaking. Why? Because I was 8. I had a gap right here. I was missing a tooth. I needed a crown. Did I even have glasses at that point?
You didn't have any glasses.
I couldn't see. I was a mess. But she encouraged me and she would get up in the mornings and watch my show, and she'd wake me up. She'd be like, "Alana, I just watched your show, and you did so good." And she would just gas me up, knowing that I wasn't that good, but she's the reason why.
No, you were pretty good, Alana, even at 8. That's why you're here now. Good.
And she encouraged me so much where I just didn't want to stop filming the show. And so I spend more time researching my topics, so I have more to talk about, and I've worked on my vocabulary, and I've tried not to flare my hands as much, but that didn't work. And so she's helped me grow a lot. And another woman who's helped me grow a lot is my mother. She has always supported my endeavors as well, but she's also taught me a lot of things. I like my grandmother. My grandmother is more big on encouraging me and basically never letting me give up. I mean, she's never let me give up. If I said, I can't do it, she won't let me give up. Like, for instance, I couldn't play trumpet. She made me practice, and she made me get good to the point where I actually was fortunate enough to be a part of Metro Nashville's honor band, middle school honor band, which was a really nice event. It was a 2-day event. I had to have a concert. It was really nice. And so I thank these women in my life for being in my life, and I thank them for not saying you can't do this and you'll never be good like that, because they don't have that type of hate in their hearts. My mother and my grandmother have never told me that there's something I couldn't do. If I said, Mom, I want to do this, you can do it. Just practice for it and get ready for it. If I say, I want to be an astronaut, well, learn science and get good at science, because they've never told me I couldn't do anything. I could say that I want to fly, and they could say, well, if you make a machine, you can fly. They would never tell me that I couldn't. And I'm so happy about that, because it's given me so much self-confidence, and it's helped me with so many opportunities in my life.
So in a real personal way, you can say that Women's History Month is not only for the general public, but each person has to look within their own lives and within their own households. And they can find women who are significant and women who are doing the same thing in different ways than as the women that you are doing dealing with this morning. Is that what we're saying?
Of course. And if you are a woman and you didn't grow up with those types of figures, be that figure to somebody. If you have a son, be that figure to your son. Even if you don't have children, you can go to like the Boys and Girls Club or the YMCA. You can be those figures to kids who didn't have that, and hopefully they can grow up a lot better than a child who didn't have that influence would grow up. And you can really make a difference and really help a lot of children. That's why I always encourage people to go to mentoring and do activities like that, because you don't know how you can impact a child.
Very good. And so, Lana, let me thank you over the last half minute that we have here of giving us that information. As a matter of fact, all of the information that you were giving us this morning was so extensive that I didn't even have an opportunity to say that much about it, and that's what I wanted to do, because I wanted you to demonstrate that you are aware of what is going on, and I certainly appreciate that, and I'm sure that your peers appreciate it, and I'm certainly